On a cold, rainy evening in 1971, a quiet stranger stepped into Portland Airport, unaware that he was about to
Create the only unsolved hijacking in American history.
He purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle under a name that would outlive every suspect the FBI ever chased: Dan Cooper.
With steady footsteps, he climbed the Boeing 727 stairs, blending in like any ordinary traveler with no hint of what was coming. Inside the cabin, he settled into seat 18C, ordered a bourbon and soda, sitting with the patience of a man waiting for a precise moment.
Moments later, he handed the flight attendant a folded note, something she almost ignored, until he quietly leaned forward.
In a steady voice, he whispered a sentence that froze her in place. "Miss, I have a bomb."
He revealed just enough. Wires, red cylinders, a glimpse meant only to convince, not to scare.
In calm, measured words, he demanded $200,000 and 4 parachutes.
With passengers unaware of the danger, the FBI had minutes to respond, and negotiation became their only option.
Rain hammered the runway as Flight 305 touched down in Seattle, beginning the most delicate hostage exchange in aviation history.
Inside, Cooper remained strangely polite, ordering meals for the crew, reassuring them he meant no harm.
FBI agents delivered the ransom in a waterproof bag, trading money for the safety of every passenger on board.
Cooper inspected each bundle meticulously, as if checking familiar equipment rather than stolen cash.
Then came his final instruction: fly south toward Mexico, low, slow, and with the rear air stair unlocked. The Boeing 727's rear staircase made mid-air exit possible, a design few passengers even knew existed.
Lentome. As the doors sealed and engines roared, Flight 305 climbed back into a raging storm, carrying a hijacker.
Minutes into flight, a warning light blinked red in the cockpit. The rear stair had been opened.
Behind the crew, seat 18C sat empty, his bourbon glass untouched, already cooling in the dim cabin light. Storm winds tore through the open ramp as an East Asian male named Cooper stepped into the freezing night, clutching the ransom tightly. And then, into the gentle night sky, the mysterious passenger moved quietly away, becoming a legend whispered through time.
As the storm battered the aircraft, the crew felt a sudden violent drop, just seconds after the rear air stair warning light came alive.
The pilots radioed Seattle Center in confusion, reporting a situation no commercial airliner had ever faced mid-flight.
Behind them, in the freezing roar of the cabin, Cooper stood alone, preparing for a leap few believed any man could survive.
Outside the aircraft, rain lashed sideways at nearly 5 miles per hour, conditions deadly even for trained paratroopers.
Yet Cooper showed no hesitation, as though he had studied this aircraft, this storm, and this moment, down to the last detail.
At precisely 8:13 p.m., Flight 305 jolted, an abrupt upward pitch the FBI later marked as the exact second he jumped.
The crew, forbidden from leaving the cockpit, could only guess. The hijacker was no longer on board. Below him stretched miles of pitch-black wilderness, a void of forests, rivers, and freezing chaos.
When the jet finally landed safely in Reno, FBI agents rushed aboard, only to find silence and an empty jump seat.
All that remained of the hijacker was a narrow black tie, a mother-of-pearl clip, and an untouched bourbon glass.
Within hours, the FBI mapped a suspected jump zone, hundreds of square miles of unforgiving Washington wilderness.
Helicopters, search teams, and tracking dogs swept the area, but not a trace of the man or the money was found. Rain softened the ground, washed tracks away, and erased any sign of where Cooper might have landed. Search crews dragged rivers, combed ravines, and scanned tree lines, but the wilderness held its secrets tight. A breakthrough came when scientists found metal particles on his tie, materials used only in aerospace manufacturing.
The discovery suggested Cooper might have worked near jet engines or aircraft assembly lines, giving him knowledge beyond the average citizen.
Agents examined military records, engineering rosters, and classified contractor lists, yet none matched the mysterious name he used. Suspects piled up. Ex-paratroopers, escaped convicts, bitter employees, each promising, each collapsing under scrutiny. Every promising lead unraveled into disappointment, leaving investigators more baffled than when the chase began.
By year's end, the trail had gone cold. But the legend of the man who vanished through a storm had only just begun.
To understand who Cooper might have been, agents retraced every movement he made in Portland, hoping a forgotten detail might reveal his identity.
Witnesses described him as calm, polite, and strangely confident, as if hijacking an airplane was routine for him.
Even his clothing was unusual. An ironed suit, clip-on tie, and polished shoes. More like a businessman than a criminal.
Some agents believed he might have been ex-military, trained, disciplined, and accustomed to high-pressure situations. But others argued he was something else entirely, an ordinary man with extraordinary planning. The key question remained: did he survive the jump, or perish somewhere in the wilderness below? Experts warned the odds were against him. High winds, freezing temperatures, and rugged terrain nearly impossible to navigate. Yet Cooper jumped with no hesitation, suggesting he knew the land, or trusted his own skill more than the storm.
If he died, investigators expected to find a parachute, clothing, bones, something, but nothing ever appeared.
As months passed, the case only grew stranger, because nature had erased every trace of his landing.
The FBI expanded the search radius by over 30 miles, mapping wind drift patterns hour by hour.
Still, no parachute was ever found, raising questions about whether Cooper even used the one he took. Some believed he died instantly upon landing. Others insisted he walked away without a scratch.
To narrow their search, agents recreated the storm conditions in wind tunnels and flight simulators.
Results showed the storm was brutal, strong enough to strip gear from a jumper mid-fall. But even then, investigators believed a trained man could have survived if he chose the landing zone carefully. One theory claimed Cooper aimed for the Lewis River Valley, a place dark, deep, and nearly impossible to search fully. Another theory argued he landed far north of the predicted area, blown off course by the violent crosswinds. But the strongest clue came from the money itself, marked bills that could reveal where they eventually surfaced. For years, none of the ransom money appeared anywhere, until a young Hispanic boy digging on a riverbank made a discovery that shocked the nation. 3 children had been digging along the Columbia River's edge when their shovels struck something unusual: bundles of decayed cash wrapped in rubber bands.
When authorities examined the bills, serial numbers confirmed the impossible. They were part of Cooper's ransom.
The discovery raised more questions than answers. Why had only a fraction of the money surfaced? And why here?
The bills appeared weathered, waterlogged, and fused together, suggesting they'd been buried for years.
But experts were puzzled. The money had been found miles away from the predicted jump zone.
Some believed the river carried the money downstream. Others suspected someone planted it intentionally.
If Cooper died in the wilderness, the river theory made sense, but it could not explain why only a few bills surfaced. A darker theory emerged, that Cooper survived, hid the money, and returned later to bury a portion as misdirection.
The FBI examined soil layers from the dig site, hoping to determine when the bills were buried.
Their findings suggested the cash had been in the ground for years, yet not long enough to match Cooper's jump.
That meant someone, possibly Cooper, interacted with the money long after the hijacking. But if Cooper survived, why would he bury evidence linking him to the crime? Some theorized he lost part of the cash during the landing, scattered by wind, rain, and time. Others believed Cooper attempted to bury the money for retrieval, but never returned.
The FBI recreated water erosion and burial conditions, testing how long cash could last underground.
Their results deepened the mystery. The money found didn't match the decay expected from a 1971 burial, if not the river, and not immediate burial. Investigators wondered if a human hand placed it there much later. This theory reignited the most daring possibility, that Cooper walked away from the jump alive. If he survived, he could have lived quietly for decades, hidden in plain sight. But the discovery raised one last haunting question. Why did Cooper never spend most of the money he risked his life to steal? Despite endless searches, none of Cooper's remaining ransom, over 99% of it, ever showed up in banks or circulation. The FBI monitored every suspicious bank deposit for years, but the hijacker's fingerprints never surfaced. If Cooper survived, he avoided every mistake criminals typically make. No bragging, no spending, no trace. Agents created psychological profiles, concluding Cooper was unusually disciplined, possibly older and more experienced than witnesses assumed.
Witnesses described him as calm and confident, traits rarely seen in impulsive criminals seeking quick cash.
Some investigators believed Cooper wasn't motivated by money at all, but by the challenge itself.
If so, his perfect composure on the plane made sense. He wasn't panicking. He was executing a plan. Agents reconstructed his briefcase bomb, concluding it may have been a clever decoy designed only to intimidate. If the bomb was fake, it meant Cooper risked everything on charm, confidence, and an understanding of human fear. Yet his escape relied on more than nerves. He chose the Boeing 727 specifically for its unique rear staircase. Few civilians even knew the design existed, but military jump teams trained from it during secret exercises. This fueled theories that Cooper might have been a former test paratrooper, familiar with the aircraft's quirks. But even experienced jumpers warned, no one sane leaps into a violent storm in street clothes, unless he knew exactly where he was going, or believed death was an acceptable outcome. Years later, retired agents admitted one unsettling possibility. Cooper might have been injured on landing.
If he did survive, he likely limped into the darkness alone, carrying a bag of cash and fading strength.
Without shelter, light, or bearings, even a skilled man could vanish in minutes into that wilderness. But if he reached a road or safe house, he could have disappeared into civilian life without anyone noticing.
The FBI checked every stolen car, cabin, and shelter near the landing zone, but Cooper left no fingerprints, no footprints, no trace.
And with each year that passed, the silence around him grew louder, turning a simple hijacker into an American legend. As the case grew colder, agents turned to science, hoping forensic breakthroughs might reveal where Cooper vanished. One clue stood out. The tie he left behind carried exotic metal particles used only in specialized aviation factories. This suggested Cooper worked around jet engines, perhaps even on the very aircraft he hijacked.
If true, he wasn't just a hijacker. He was a technician who understood every bolt of the machine he escaped from.
Others believed Cooper might have been a Boeing employee, someone with access, knowledge, and motive. Rumors swirled about disgruntled workers, union disputes, and layoffs, but no link to Cooper ever materialized. Some proposed a stranger theory, that Cooper might have been a skydiving instructor with financial trouble.
If so, he knew the parachutes inside and out, even the type mistakenly given to him during the hijacking.
One of the parachutes Cooper took couldn't even be steered, yet he chose it anyway, baffling the experts. If he truly understood the chute's limitations, he may have selected it on purpose, to mislead investigators.
For decades, agents reviewed every aviation school, every airbase, every survival instructor. Yet none matched his description.
If Cooper had a past in military service, he had erased it flawlessly. No fingerprints, no service record, no trail. Investigators began to realize something chilling. Cooper may have been preparing for this moment for years. No part of the hijacking felt improvised, from the seat he chose to the clothes he wore.
Even the note he handed the stewardess was written with purpose, short, direct, and without a single wasted word.
Some agents believed he studied past hijackings, learning what worked and eliminating what didn't. He boarded during a storm, chose a seat near the door, and knew the aircraft model by heart, none of it accidental.
Even the flight path he demanded aligned perfectly with wilderness terrain, ideal for disappearing forever.
If Cooper was alive, he had escaped into a world that didn't expect him, a ghost with money no one ever saw again.
And as investigators ran out of suspects, one unsettling truth emerged. Maybe Cooper wasn't his real name at all.
If the hijacker used a fake identity, it meant he had planned his escape long before ever stepping onto Flight 305. Agents traced every man who purchased plane tickets that day, yet none matched the phantom they were chasing. It was as if Cooper simply materialized at the airport and vanished again the same night.
Agents studied every remaining detail. The bourbon he drank, the cigarettes re-smoked, even the way he folded his note. But none of it led to a real identity, only the outline of a man who stayed calm while committing chaos. Witness sketches varied wildly. Some saw a businessman, others a veteran, others a tired traveler with cold eyes. With no photographs and no fingerprints, agents relied on behaviors, patterns only an expert could recognize. Cooper avoided panic, threats, or aggression. He acted like a man who knew the outcome before it happened. Experts believe he had rehearsed every step so thoroughly that even fear couldn't break his focus. But one detail stood out. He never called his plan an escape, only a request when the crew must follow. Investigators found no malice, no rage, only precision, control, and eerie politeness. This strange blend made Cooper more than a criminal. It made him unpredictable. Agents explored psychological patterns. Men who live simply, plan quietly, and vanish easily. One theory suggested Cooper lived near the landing zone, a local who knew the forests better than the FBI ever could. If he walked into a warm cabin that night, soaked and bruised, no one would ever have questioned a tired neighbor at the door. In the following years, locals reported strange stories. Men appearing suddenly, asking for dry clothes, then disappearing again.
None of the sightings were confirmed, yet each added to the legends that Cooper had lived among them, just briefly.
Meanwhile, suspects continued to emerge. Hundreds of men interrogated, each carrying secrets of their own.
Every suspect brought excitement, then disappointment, as evidence crumbled with even the slightest pressure.
By the 10th year, the FBI had more theories than truths, and Cooper remained a ghost no one could touch. With time running out, agents shifted focus to criminal masterminds, men with records of precision, patience, and vanishing acts. Some suspects confessed to friends, others bragged in bars, but none produced a shred of proof. Even deathbed confessions failed. Stories full of drama, but empty of evidence. The FBI then examined Cooper's actions minute by minute, searching for hidden meaning in every movement. His style suggested precision, not desperation. A man who executed a plan, not a man fleeing his past. But one truth haunted agents for decades. Cooper never made a single mistake investigators could trace. Every criminal leaves a pattern. Every fugitive leaves a trail. Cooper left neither, only questions. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially closed the case. Still no body, no parachute, no money.
But legends don't close. They echo through forests, flight paths,
And the fading memory of a man who walked into the sky and never returned. More than 50 years later, one question remains untouched by time. Did D.B. Cooper die in the storm?
or live to smile at the world he fooled.